Islam, Shalom, Assalamu Osio, Hola, Aloha, Bonjour. This is your brother Zach Bey, Indigenous American Moor, coming to you live and in full effect. Thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe to my channel, hit that thumbs up button, leave a comment down below, interact with my content, even hit that notification bell if you want to be notified whenever I'm dropping and uploading new content. Thank you. I really do appreciate your viewership. Jumping back into part two of my last topic on my origins growing up as a so-called black male here in America, being a Moorish American man, and pretty much my backstory, my origins, and a few of the times I ran into systematic racism here in America and how it affected my life and my upbringing um, as a whole. All right, so on the last video, I pretty much left off at the topic or at the part when I was saying how I went through elementary school, middle school, and on my way to like high school. Quick correction, the last one, I only stayed at T.C. Williams until the 10th grade. After the 10th grade, I moved and switched to Jeb Stewart, which is no longer called Jeb Stewart now, which was in, I want to say closer to the like Falls Church area, but it was Fairfax. So yeah. Um, I went there for a year, but I want to jump back to my first, I guess, brush with like racism here in America. It was in elementary school, and it seemed like it was small, but it was something that really stuck out to me. It was very enlightening to me as a young man in elementary school. So I realized that I had a group of friends that were Europeans here in America. So, like I said, there was a there was like a bus system that took place, like maybe like um, the 70s, like from the 70s to the I want to say like the early 2000s maybe. Um, but yeah, busing children from one community to a different community to diversify school populations. But in George Mason Elementary School, it was one summer where in the group of friends that I had, which was the majority Europeans, um, it was one summer where it was like, I guess, a slumber party. And after coming back from the break, I realized that out of the friend group, I was the only one who was not invited to said slumber party. I have no idea if it was like because of my childhood friends. Most likely it wasn't. I'm guessing it was on part of the parents who reached out to other parents in order to bring their children or to have some kind of dialogue to invite them to said slumber party. That never happened for me. So after coming back from break, I realized I was the only boy in said friend group that wasn't invited to the slumber party. So there was bonding, there were memories and experiences had that excluded me. All right. So I really took a notice to that I was boy in the class that was not invited. Yeah, that really stuck out to me, and I was like, how come, why? I really didn't understand, as a young man, not really having racism, systematic racism really explained to you as a young person, just thinking you're any other child growing up with other children, and we're no different, boys are boys, girls are girls, stuff like that. So that's how we grew up. So I really didn't, I wouldn't say I didn't see color, because that's definitely impossible. And I pretty much respected people for who they were. I accepted them for who they were, and I respected them for who they were. And I feel that's how all humans deserve to be treated: respected for who you are, and respected for, just respected as a person together. It was a big saying in the '90s when I was growing up. I remember a lot of European people, pale faces, would say, "Oh, I don't see color. We don't see color." And I actually thought that was good, or like some sort of enlightenment. But then as I get older, I realized that that's another form of disrespect, or that's another way of looking over somebody. As far as saying that you don't see someone's color, I believe the correct way is you see someone for who they are and you respect them for it, whether the pigment of their, or the pigment or the hue of their flesh. You respect someone for being a good person, and you treat them accordingly. You respect someone for being a person, for being a human being, and you respect them accordingly. That's pretty much how I thought life was until, I had that realization. But it didn't really jade me. It was just something that I took awareness of. Like I said, when I was a young man, I was very astute. Very observant. So, watching wildlife and behavioral patterns and things like that, I applied that same expertise to, my daily life. Since I liked watching, Steve Irwin, Jeff Corwin, back in the day it was Crocodile Hunter. That was the name of the show, the Crocodile Hunter. Watching specials like that and seeing how animals interact and, the patterns and things like that, I pretty much applied that to the environment that I was in. I would sit back, I would watch, I would observe. I would see, really what was happening, what was going on, characteristics, patterns, things of that nature. So I pretty much applied that to my environment growing up in, an urban manufactured ghetto neighborhood type thing, project. Yeah. I really wasn't aware of how the world overall worked. I was still a young man, but in my environment, I seen that some things weren't right, and I seen how things were different from one environment to another, and how people were different from one environment to another, and I seen how people were different in their own environment versus being in someone else's environment. I would often see those interactions and see that play out, and it was very interesting to me. So getting older, and I can recall another instance I had as a young man with like racism, systematic white supremacy here in America. After elementary school, so during junior high or middle school, I was So from like 6th grade to 8th grade, in between this time period, I was at my grandmother's house. I was in her neighborhood, spending a weekend or a summer down there or something like that, which happened often in my youth. I often spent summers or weekends at my grandmother's house, which is, if you know the Northern Virginia area, you might know an area called the Burg, or even if you've ever seen the movie Remember the Titans, they spoke about the Burg, and that's where my grandmother lived, and where I spent a good majority of my youth being raised. So I was there with my grandmother, and I was outside with my friends. We were playing, and I had a buddy of mine's bike. He was a little bit older, but I know for a fact it was his bike, and I just took it for a ride. I was riding around the neighborhood, around the block. And I remember I was going around the edge of the block, and there was an old bus barn. There was an old bus barn across. And from that area, a police car came and threw on the sirens and everything and stopped me on the corner. I recognized it, I noticed, and it came toward me and stopped me on the corner. And the policy enforcer or police officer told me to stop, and that I matched some sort of description when I asked why, what's going on. Mind you, I'm a teenager, so I wasn't aware of the rights, my human rights. I wasn't aware of exactly what to do in said situation, but I wasn't a fool. I know I didn't commit any crimes, and I was always very astute and always very articulate and expressing myself. So I asked the officer in a calm, intelligent tone, what's the issue? Why did he stop me? The issue was, he told me I matched the description of someone who had stolen a bike. All right, so from what he told me and from what I found out a little later, after being detained there for over 15 minutes while backup came and things of that nature, a little group started to gather. A few other children saw me there, being accosted, being questioned, being detained. I was there holding the bicycle. They asked me to get off. The policy enforcer told me the description in which I somehow matched. Apparently it was my skin tone, so a black male with a white t-shirt and blue jeans. So mind you, this is back when white tees, white t-shirts, and Air Force Ones were very, very popular. Songs were out about it and everything, back in that era, so early 2000s. So I had on a white tee, some Air Force Ones, some blue jeans, and I somehow matched the description. Now during that time, it was the summer also, so during any and everybody, was pretty much wearing that. That was the style, white t-shirt and some blue jeans, maybe some shorts with some Air Force Ones on. So that description pretty much matched most of the people around, so it had to be more than that. But they checked the VIN on the bicycle I was on. Mind you, it was a normal pedal bicycle. I want to say it was a mountain bike. They checked the VIN. I was still being detained. A buddy of my friend mother saw that I was there and told other children, her children, her younger children, to go to my grandmother's house and tell my family that I was being detained on the corner by the police, and to come and assist, that type of thing. So they did. My cousin, my aunt came over to ask, what was going on, and by that time, this so-called investigation was already was kind of wrapping up for the most part. Like I said, they ran the VIN on the said bicycle. It wasn't stolen. And then come to find out that the so-called bike that was stolen by a suspect, who was so-called black male with a white tee and blue jeans on, it turns out it was a dirt bike of some sort stolen from the back of a pickup truck. So it was not a bicycle, and it was a dirt bike, a motorized dirt bike. So, this policy enforcer was completely missed the mark in identifying a potential suspect or something like that. And I was detained, and I was racially profiled for the first time in my life. That was something, I would say, when that happened, the level of calm that I felt, even with the judgment and with all the eyes on me, with the center of attention being on me, I felt a calmness because I knew I was innocent. If that makes any sense, there's a calmness when you know that you are an innocent person and you know that you've done nothing wrong. So you have every right to, be in your full range of emotions as a human being. And luckily I was able to, keep my head about me, keep my wit about me, and, stand there innocently. And, I didn't become a victim of any type of brutality, physical violence, or excessive force, thankfully. I also felt like it was due to the group of people, onlookers, witnesses who were gathering, as witnesses for me. Um, and of course, I was innocent in how I articulated myself and kept calm during that situation. Yeah, definitely. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. That wasn't the first time, that wasn't the last time I was racially profiled, but it definitely was the first time that I can remember being racially profiled as a young man. Yeah, it's definitely something growing up here in America, not really knowing if, we're going to make it to the age of 18, like I spoke about before, or if we're going to make it, to 21 to be a productive member of society. There was huge shows like Cops that was out at the time. The Rodney King situation had happened. I wasn't too aware of that, but I know in the 90s it happened, like toward the late 90s. And in the early 2000s, I wasn't really too aware of that. I heard about it. I was just turning, a teenager, getting into my teenage years, and I heard about that happening in the 90s. And I really wasn't too aware of like why it happened, how it happened. I remember the old quote, like, "Can't we all just get along?" type of thing, and I was just like, I always wondered why they would take that quote, "Can we all just get along?" and make it like, like a statement for the brutality that brother faced, but I didn't understand why it happened. And there was other instances of being profiled, but as I was older, a teenager, and I was out just hanging with my friends, I had a really good group of Latino friends, my best friends to this day. My brother's family, some good Moors, for real. Some Mexican, some Salvadorian, those, those my people, those Moors too, what I'm saying? Mexicano Moors, Salvadorian Moors, yeah, we all together here. So, even as a young man, I had a diverse group of friends. I didn't just, try to stay with my own people. A lot of times I didn't feel connected to what the environment, the television, the radio was telling me what my people were supposed to be doing. To tell you the truth, I knew there was something wrong with that. So from images I saw being flashed on the television screen, on the radio, of how my people should be, that never really sat with me. And I was like, no, I don't want to be like that. That doesn't seem productive. That doesn't seem good. It doesn't appeal to me, So honestly, I kind of rejected the socio-political category that this country chose to place my people in. And I completely rejected it. I rejected that identity because I knew it wasn't right. It never sat well with me. My people are supposed to be poor. The narrative that was always been pushed, You know, people like me are supposed to be poor. We're supposed to be accosted by the police. We're supposed to be downtrodden. We're supposed to be the bottom of society. We're supposed to be unintelligent. You know, intelligence was mocked. Intelligent was lame. Intelligent was uncool. Um, Being called Steve Urkel because I had glasses, you know, stuff like that. It wasn't really cool to be a intellectual, to be an intelligent person. Um, but hey, I didn't care. You know, so I like having fun with what I like having fun with: fishing, um, catching bugs, insects, frogs, snakes, turtles, you know, reptiles, trapping, trapping mammals. You know, I did a lot of stuff as a youth. Um, Capturing animals. Tried to start little businesses. You know, I did a lot of things um, to be prosperous, to be productive. You know, to change the world that I saw outside my door. My imagination was very, very powerful. And to this day, it still is. To this day, it still is. So that helped me kind of have a mental escape from where I was and the environment that was around me as a younger man. And moving from that environment after 10th grade, going into the 11th grade, moving and going to a different environment is where I went to Jeb Stewart. And being exposed to a whole different group of peers was definitely a very new experience for me. Um, Very eye-opening, enlightening, I would say. I would say during that time I felt a little lighter because of the new school environment, the new peer group I was in. More Europeans, but it was more so diverse. It wasn't as like when I was younger. Um, these Europeans were a lot of females, and then the few guys, um, they were uh, pretty hip, pretty hip to style and stuff like that. So it wasn't really too much of like, this is your culture, this is my culture. You know, as I got older, stuff kind of started to blend more. You know, what's cool is cool, what's hip is hip. You know, and it's kind of like that with the age groups. So as far as like how we dressed and things and how we spoke and interacted with each other, you know, it was all like, fun times. You know, it wasn't. Um, it wasn't really stressful, or it didn't seem forced, to try to hang out with people who looked different than me, who had different upbringings than me. So that was a pretty good environment. I felt like I got a lot lighter. Um, I switched up my style of dress during that time. I started partying. Um, Mind you, I was in 11th grade. I started partying with the seniors, 'cause the seniors were more my speed. A lot of people kind of flocked to me because of the school I came from. T.C. Williams High School was kind of like sort of like a famous or well-known school in the Northern Virginia area. So just coming from there, they would ask me, "Oh, do you know this person? Do you know that person?" And great sports teams, and of course, remember the Titans movie had come out years before that. So it was definitely an eye-opening experience. I definitely enjoyed it. I actually went to Hershey Park my first year. Um, yeah, I might have had so much fun that year, or even the fact that I almost didn't graduate because it was a little tough sometimes getting adjusted to that environment when I first got there. To tell you the truth, when I first got there, it was a little tough getting used to that environment, and I almost did not complete that year of school. I almost completely left the American school system altogether and just got into the workforce at that time. That almost happened in 11th grade. It didn't. And yes, that was 1 year in Jeb Stuart, which Jeb Stuart is no longer the name anymore because there was some historical things where they changed the names of Confederate named schools, buildings, streets, monuments were taken down that were representing the Confederate side during the Civil War here in America. So that happened early 2010, 2010s. That around that time period, I remember. Or maybe a little after that, maybe like 2015, 2016, a little after. But I know that happened a few years prior, before 2020. Monuments were being removed and replaced. Street names were being changed. A lot of stuff like that, and people were complaining about covering up history or something like that. But of course, it was a lot of whitewash history, and history hasn't ever really been told completely in this country. But I didn't want to make this video too long, but look, I've already been speaking for about 25 minutes now, so I'm going to have to make a part 3. Once again, this is my origins. I'm working up how I came into, more science, my experiences, learning about myself, and going through the American public school systems and my interactions, and my personal interactions with systematic racism, white supremacy here in America, as a Moorish American, American Indian, so-called African American, so-called Black here in America. Thank you once again. This is your brother Tarik Bey. Wado. Peace.